Mona, my eldest sister, who's happily married with 2 children. Me, the youngest in the family, or often referred to as the accident, and Marwa, the middle child spitfire who doesn't take no for an answer. Friends and family alike all predicted that Marwa would be the one to never get married, simply because she was too driven and focused on her own goals to worry about a silly man. I proudly would like to say that I'm the one that changed it all. Okay, so there's a caveat. I personally didn't introduce Marwa to her husband, but without my constant nagging for my dream car, they never would have met. About a year and a half ago, Marwa, my mom, and I were shopping for my first car. An odd 9-hour experience in itself, consisting of a Farsi-speaking man referring to my mother as Mama the entire time, and a 2-hour lunch with the salespeople as a negotiation technique. But somewhere in the middle of all of this, the salesman slyly interjects that he has a cousin who would be perfect for Marwa. He proceeds to tell us that his cousin is a charming Egyptian man, Harvard med school grad, and currently training at Johns Hopkins to become an oncologist. Fearing the typical Middle Eastern planned marriage, immediately Marwa shuts down the idea due to the fact that, quote, doctors are workaholics who are capable of nothing other than constant studying and working. She actually somewhat knew what she was talking about, considering our father has been a doctor for 30 years. After the paperwork was signed and I had my car keys in hand, Mona, my mother, and I were able to gang up on Marwa and convince her to listen to the salesman's advice and give it a try and just go on one date. And from a first not-so-great date to a second never-meeting-again date, and finally a third he's-not-so-bad date. And here we are, a short 6 months later when I receive a call from Marwa that she's engaged to Shifin Nahid. The family was shocked, but felt immense happiness and relief that someone loved Marwa as much as we all do. Another curveball comes to the family when she informs us that the wedding is only 4 months away. Little did we know these next 4 months were going to be hell. Thus, Bridezilla is born. Flowers, cake, decorations, venue, and of course the dress were the only thoughts on her mind at any time. The motto was either hop on board with Marwa or stay out of her way, which I learned the hard way after being dragged 1,400 miles for a weekend trip to Houston, where Marwa insisted was the home to the perfect Alberta Ferretti dress. We came home empty-handed. We were counting down the days to the wedding, as that would be a day filled with peace and serenity, because all the hard stuff is over, right? We thought wrong. Very, very wrong. The morning of the wedding started with everyone, my parents, Mona, her husband, the kids, Marwa, and me, huddled around the car preparing to transport and unload all the supplies to be brought into the venue. Seeing Marwa slowly becoming more anxious, pacing back and forth and picking small fights anywhere she could, Mona and I, being the strategic and trained members of a majority female family, quietly took the kids and walked to the beach, avoiding any arguments, accusations, etc. that we could potentially be placed in. My dad was standing next to the car with his suit in one hand and a coffee in the other. This, of course, did not please Princess Marwa, as my dad should have been empty-handed and ready to help. What was he thinking, enjoying a cup of coffee on the day of her wedding? Relaxation was not going to fly with Marwa until the I-do's were said. After the coffee fiasco, which she still brings up to this day, being it one of her main reasons she was so agitated with us, Bridezilla turned into the runaway bride. Impulsively, Marwa fled the scene in the car full of everyone's dresses, tuxes, shoes, jewelry, decorations, flowers, and party favors, and chaos started to erupt. She was lost for hours, and even worse, we couldn't find the groom. We all wondered if the show would actually go on. Through all the madness, every once in a while, I found my brother-in-law Omar looking at me and begging, "Please don't be like your sisters, please," knowing that he was going to have to go through it all over again once my turn came around. After working some sort of transportation to the venue, we all began to prepare for a night that at this point could potentially not even be happening. Finally, we see a relieved Sheif come through the hotel lobby doors about 3 hours after Marwa's disappearance. He explains to us that him and Marwa have just finished a quaint little lunch at a small cafe on the water, which we later learned was actually a huge seafood meal from the Mexican takeout place down the street. Casual, right? He assured us that the show would go on and that he just needed to calm her down. We were stunned, as we knew calming Marwa down was a skill not many people had. I saw my parents look at each other, and immediately I knew they were thinking the same thing as Mona and I. He was the one. With only a few short hours left, we were all running around to get ready, all while forbidden to enter the bridal suite. At every moment, there seemed to be someone dissatisfied with their hair, makeup, or even underwear. At 5:45, the planner did rounds on the rooms and giving us a 15-minute warning to be ready for the big moment. Marwa decided to have both sides of parents and siblings walk down the aisle rather than bridesmaids. Being one of the youngest in my family, I'm not sure why I was nominated to go first. I was nervous, but as I put my black suede pump down on the ivory aisle, I realized all the craziness of the past 4 months was over. I scanned the crowd and was pleased to see gleaming faces of friends and family. It was as if they were feeling the exact same sense of relief. I locked eyes with Marwa as she walked down the aisle with my father. I then turned my eyes to Sharif to find him grinning ear to ear. The compassionate look in their eyes reminded me what this day was all about. It wasn't about underwear or coffee, but about my sister marrying the man of her dreams. Finally, it was the moment we had all been waiting for. The adus were said, or in Islam, hands were shook between my father and Sharif, and now the celebration truly begun. The constant flow of food commenced. People couldn't seem to catch their breath between shoving burgers, popcorn, shrimp, or cheesesteaks into their mouths. The night was also filled with Arabic traditions like belly dancers, Arabic music, speeches, during which Ahmad warned Sharif, from one brother-in-law to another, that tonight he was not only marrying one of the Kamel sisters, but in reality all 3 and their mother. And of course, a few non-Arabic traditions that my parents were unaware of at the so-called after party. Throughout the night, I looked around to my family members and close friends, only to see the true joy in their faces, and couldn't help but feel happy myself. I could see the joy on Marwa's face and realized that the crazy roller coaster of the past year was all worth it. As a younger sister, this experience taught me that life can sometimes be unexpected and full of surprises, but the happiness of family will always be worth it. That being said, I've personally vowed to both my brother-in-laws to never become a bridezilla.
حاجة فيا بتنادي